Awakening the ice. In the cold depths of space, a massive ship glided silently through the void. This was the CAX mothership, a gleaming marvel of technology that had traveled light years from its war-torn home planet. Commander Zorn, a reptilian figure with 4 keen eyes, stood at the bridge, his gaze fixed on the blue and white orb that filled the main view screen. Earth, once vibrant and full of life, it now lay dormant beneath a thick blanket of ice and snow. "Scan complete," reported Vex, the science officer, her tentacles dancing over holographic controls. "The surface temperature averages -50 degrees Celsius. No signs of complex life detected." Zorn nodded, his scaled skin shimmering in the soft light of the bridge. "As expected," he replied, his voice deep and resonant. "Initiate thawing procedures. We will make this frozen rock habitable again." The CAX had traveled across galaxies in search of new worlds to colonize. Their own planet, ravaged by war and environmental collapse, could no longer sustain their civilization. Earth, with its vast resources and strategic location, was perfect for their new home. As the fleet descended into Earth's atmosphere, massive heat rays began to bore into the ice. Steam rose in great plumes, obscuring views of the planet's surface. Weeks passed as the ice receded, revealing shocking discoveries. First came skyscraper tops, then entire buildings preserved by millennia of freezing temperatures. Zorn studied images transmitted from ground teams with growing disbelief. "This level of preservation, it's as if the planet was flash frozen," he muttered. But soon came an even more startling revelation. As thawing continued, faint energy signatures emerged from deep beneath the surface. Initially dismissed as residual radiation or equipment malfunction, these signatures grew stronger and more numerous until Vex called out with a tremor in her voice, "We're detecting life signs. Hundreds, no thousands of them. And they're human." Zorn's scales bristled with shock. "That's not possible. No species could survive an ice age of this magnitude." Yet as more ice melted away, vast underground complexes were revealed, cities built to sustain life for generations. The first human emerged from a hidden entrance, blinking in unfamiliar sunlight. He was tall and lean with pale skin that had never known natural light. His eyes widened at the sight of alien ships hovering above him. More humans followed suit from various entrances around the globe, moving with purpose and discipline as they quickly established perimeters. Zorn watched this unfolding scene with awe and trepidation. The humans they had expected to find, if any had survived at all, should have been struggling cave dwellers barely clinging to existence. Instead, they faced an organized civilization that had not only endured but thrived against apocalyptic odds. "What are your orders, Commander?" asked his second-in-command, hovering over weapons controls. Zorn hesitated. Their original plan had been simple: thaw the planet, eliminate any primitive survivors, and claim Earth for the CAX. But now, faced with an advanced human civilization, everything had changed. "Hold position," Zorn finally commanded. "We need to reassess our strategy. These humans are unlike anything we've encountered before." As tensions mounted on both sides, humans emerged from their underground sanctuaries to gaze at alien ships with a mix of curiosity and wariness. They had prepared for this moment for generations, passing down knowledge and technology, always ready for the day they would reclaim their surface world. In one of the largest underground cities, Dr. Elena Chen led a council meeting among Earth's finest scientists and diplomats. "The surface readings confirm it," she reported breathlessly. "The Ice Age is ending far more rapidly than we anticipated, and we're not alone." The council chamber buzzed with murmurs of concern and excitement. They had always known this day would come but never expected an alien force would complicate matters so drastically. "We've prepared for every contingency," said Council Leader Marcus Steele firmly. "Initiate First Contact Protocol Alpha. Let's show these visitors that humanity is very much alive and ready to reclaim our world." As humans prepared to face their unexpected guests while CAX grappled with newfound implications of their discovery, Both species stood on the brink of a momentous encounter, a clash of civilizations where humanity's resilience would be tested against an alien force that sought to claim their home. The last remnants of ice melted away under a warm sun that felt foreign after millennia of cold, a stark contrast to what lay ahead. Uncertainty mixed with hope for both species as they prepared for an encounter that would shape not just Earth's future, but perhaps that of the galaxy itself. As Elena led her team toward Central Park, a soggy expanse now exposed, she felt a mixture of anticipation and dread wash over her. This was it, the moment that could define humanity's path forward or seal its fate forever. With each step toward what was once a bustling heart of New York City now transformed into an alien landscape dotted with remnants of civilization frozen in time, Elena knew one thing: whatever happened next would change everything they thought they knew about themselves and about life beyond Earth itself. The Council of Elders. As the sun rose over the newly thawed landscape of what was once Central Park, the air buzzed with anticipation. The humans stood in a semicircle, their eyes fixed on the alien delegation that had just arrived. Dr. Elena Chen, still feeling the weight of her responsibility, glanced at her colleagues. Marcus Steele, the council leader, stood beside her, his expression a mix of determination and concern. Today marks a pivotal moment for humanity, Marcus said, his voice steady. We need to show them that we are not just survivors. We are a civilization ready to reclaim our place on this planet. Elena nodded, her heart racing. They had prepared for this meeting for generations. But now that it was here, she felt the enormity of the situation. The Cax were not just visitors. They were conquerors who had come to take what they believed was theirs. As the two groups faced each other across the muddy ground, Zorn and his team stepped forward. The Cax commander's scales glimmered in the sunlight, and his 4 eyes blinked rapidly, an indication of his surprise at the sight of organized humans. We did not expect to find your kind here, Zorn began, his voice resonating through the air. Your survival is unexpected. Unexpected but not unwelcome, Elena replied, stepping forward to meet him. We have lived beneath the ice for centuries, adapting and evolving. We are here to negotiate our future. Zorn tilted his head slightly, intrigued. Negotiate? You wish to coexist? Yes, Marcus interjected. We want to understand your intentions and discuss how we can share this planet. The atmosphere was tense as both sides processed each other's words. The Cax had come with plans of colonization. Humans were prepared for resistance, but also hopeful for diplomacy. Very well, Zorn said after a moment's pause. Let us convene in a more suitable environment. He gestured toward a nearby structure that had been revealed by melting ice, a former park building that could serve as a temporary meeting space. The group moved toward the building, where remnants of human civilization lay scattered, faded posters and benches half buried in mud. As they entered, Elena felt a sense of history wash over her. This place had once been alive with laughter and joy. Inside, they arranged themselves around a long table made from repurposed materials, wood salvaged from nearby ruins and metal scraps from old vehicles. As they took their seats, Elena glanced at her fellow humans. She could see their determination reflected in their eyes. Zorn began the meeting by outlining his people's needs, resources for survival and technology to aid in their colonization efforts. He spoke with authority but also an underlying curiosity about humanity's resilience. We seek to transform this planet into a new home, Zorn stated. Our technology will benefit both our species if you allow us to share this world. Elena listened intently as Zorn spoke about his people's struggles back home, the wars that had ravaged their planet and forced them to seek refuge elsewhere. She realized that while their goals seemed aggressive, there was also desperation behind them. Your technology is impressive, Elena acknowledged carefully. But what assurances do we have that you will not exploit our resources or harm our people? Zorn paused, his eyes narrowing slightly as he considered her question. We are not here to destroy, he replied firmly. We have lost too much already. Our survival depends on cooperation. The humans exchanged glances. They understood the weight of Zorn's words but remained cautious. Marcus leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. "What if we propose an exchange?" he suggested. "You provide us with some of your technology in return for access to our resources." Zorn considered this proposal carefully before responding. "An interesting proposition," he said slowly. "But we must establish trust first." Trust was a fragile thing between two civilizations that had never interacted before, especially when one was poised to conquer the other. As discussions continued, both sides shared knowledge about their respective cultures. Science, art, and history flowed between them like a river nourishing parched land. Elena found herself captivated by stories of Kak's engineering marvels, while Zorn listened intently as humans recounted tales of resilience during their long years underground. Hours passed as they navigated through complex discussions filled with tension and hope. Yet beneath it all lay an unspoken fear. What would happen if negotiations failed? As night fell over Central Park, casting long shadows across the muddy ground, Elena felt a sense of urgency rising within her chest. They needed to reach an agreement soon. Time was running out. Suddenly, alarms blared from outside, the sound echoing ominously through the building like thunder rolling across a stormy sky. "What is happening?" Zorn demanded sharply as he stood up abruptly. Elena rushed to the window and gasped at what she saw. A group of armed humans had gathered outside, their faces set with determination but also fear. "They're preparing for battle," she exclaimed as panic surged through her veins. Marcus quickly moved to calm everyone down. "No, we cannot let fear dictate our actions. We must resolve this peacefully." Zorn's expression hardened as he turned back toward Elena. "If your people attack us now, it will lead to war. A war neither side can afford." Elena nodded vigorously. She understood how crucial this moment was for both species' futures. "We need to talk them down. If they see us negotiating instead of fighting." Before she could finish her thought, Zorn stepped forward decisively. "I will speak with them," he declared boldly. "Are you sure?" Marcus asked hesitantly. "I must show them that we mean no harm," Zorn replied firmly before striding toward the exit. Elena watched anxiously as Zorn approached the armed group outside, their weapons raised and ready for confrontation. But she could see something else in their eyes. Uncertainty mixed with curiosity. "Wait," Zorn called out as he drew closer, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. The humans hesitated but did not lower their weapons immediately. Tension hummed thick in the air like fog, enveloping a darkened forest. "We wish only to talk," Zorn continued calmly, despite his imposing presence looming over them like a mountain range against the horizon. Elena held her breath as she watched from inside. Would they listen? Would reason prevail over fear? Slowly but surely, one by one, members of the armed group began lowering their weapons. Hesitant glances exchanged among them until finally someone stepped forward. A tall woman with fierce determination etched across her face. "I'm Captain Sarah Blake," she introduced herself cautiously, but firmly. "What do you want?" Zorn took another step closer while maintaining eye contact with Sarah, a silent acknowledgement of mutual respect forming between them despite vast differences in appearance and culture. "We seek peace," he replied simply yet powerfully, words that resonated deeply within those gathered around him like ripples spreading across still water after being disturbed by an unseen force below its surface. Lena could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Perhaps there was hope after all. As conversations resumed under clearer skies illuminated by stars twinkling above like diamonds scattered across velvet fabric stretching infinitely outward into darkness beyond comprehension, both sides began forging connections built upon shared understanding rather than fear or hostility. An alliance slowly emerging from ashes left behind by centuries-old conflicts fought between worlds far apart yet now converging upon one another at last. But even amidst newfound camaraderie lurked shadows lurking just beyond reach. Unseen forces waiting patiently for moments when trust faltered or misunderstandings arose again, threatening everything they had worked so hard to achieve together. In these fragile moments, woven together by threads spun from courage, woven tightly around hearts beating fiercely against odds stacked high against them all, the true test lay ahead. Could humanity and Cax find common ground amidst chaos swirling around them, threatening destruction once more? With every passing second ticking away like grains slipping through fingers grasping desperately onto fleeting hope, it became clear this fragile alliance would either flourish into something beautiful or shatter irreparably, leaving behind nothing but echoes haunting memories lost forevermore. The meeting in Central Park. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Central Park, the atmosphere buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The humans and Cax had spent the day negotiating, sharing their histories and cultures, but now it was time for a more formal meeting. Elena Chen stood at the forefront of the human delegation, her heart racing as she prepared to face Commander Zorn once more. Setting the stage, the makeshift meeting area was surrounded by remnants of a world long gone. Half-buried benches, trees stripped bare by centuries of ice. Yet, there was a sense of renewal in the air, promise of what could be if both sides worked together. Elena took a deep breath, reminding herself of the importance of this moment. They were not just representing themselves, they were representing all of humanity. Zorn arrived with his entourage, their scales glistening under the fading sunlight. The Cax moved with an elegance that belied their reptilian appearance, and Elena couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and apprehension. She had read about alien encounters in history books, but never imagined she would be part of one. Opening remarks. "Welcome again to Earth," Elena began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Today, we seek to establish a foundation for our future interactions. We have much to learn from each other." Zorn nodded, his four eyes scanning the assembled humans. "We come not as conquerors but as seekers of knowledge. Our worlds have faced similar challenges: war, survival, and the quest for peace." Elena felt a flicker of hope at Zorn's words. Perhaps this meeting could lead to something meaningful. Cultural exchange. As discussions progressed, both sides shared stories that illustrated their struggles and triumphs. Elena spoke about humanity's resilience during the Ice Age, how they had adapted to survive underground while preserving their knowledge and culture. "We built cities beneath the ice," she explained passionately. "We created art, music, and technology to sustain ourselves. We are not just survivors, we are innovators." Zorn listened intently as Elena spoke, occasionally glancing at his advisors for confirmation. "Your ingenuity is commendable," he replied thoughtfully. "We too have faced extinction but have learned to adapt through technology." The exchange continued as they discussed their respective scientific advancements. Cax engineering marvels that harnessed energy from stars and human innovations in sustainable living that had allowed them to thrive underground. Misunderstandings arise. However, as the conversation deepened, misunderstandings began to surface. When Zorn mentioned their need for resources to support their colonization efforts, Marcus Steele interjected cautiously. "Resources are not infinite," Marcus said firmly. "We must ensure that any extraction is sustainable and does not harm our environment." Zorn's expression shifted slightly. Confusion flickered in his eyes. "We do not wish to harm your planet," he replied slowly, "but we require materials to build our new home." The tension in the room thickened as both sides grappled with their differing perspectives on resource management and environmental ethics. A surprising revelation. Just when it seemed that negotiations might falter, Vex, the Cax science officer, spoke up with unexpected urgency. "Commander Zorn, I believe there is something we must share." The room fell silent as Vex activated a holographic display, showcasing images from their scans beneath the surface. "We detected ancient structures buried deep within your planet," she continued. They appear to be remnants of a civilization that predates your own. Elena's heart raced as she studied the images, intricate designs etched into stone and metal that hinted at advanced technology long lost to time. What does this mean? Elena asked breathlessly. Zorn exchanged glances with Vex before responding. It suggests that your planet has a rich history we were unaware of, a history that may hold answers for both our species. Shared goals. The revelation shifted the dynamics of the meeting entirely. Instead of focusing solely on resources and territory, they began discussing collaboration, how they could work together to uncover these ancient secrets and learn from them. We can share our knowledge, Elena proposed eagerly. If we work together, we can unlock technologies that could benefit both our civilizations. Zorn nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. This could be an opportunity for mutual growth rather than conflict. As discussions continued late into the evening, both sides began drafting plans for joint expeditions to explore these ancient sites. Excitement filled the air as they envisioned what could be achieved through collaboration. A future where humans and Cax could coexist and thrive together. A night under the stars. As darkness enveloped Central Park, Elena found herself standing outside with Zorn, gazing up at the stars twinkling overhead like distant beacons of hope. Do you believe we can truly achieve peace? Zorn asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena turned to him, feeling an unexpected kinship forming between them despite their differences. I believe we must try, she replied earnestly. If we don't take this chance now, we may lose everything. Zorn considered her words carefully before nodding in agreement. Then let us forge this path together. Unforeseen challenges ahead, but even as hope blossomed between them like spring flowers breaking through winter's grass, shadows lurked just beyond reach, unseen forces waiting patiently for moments when trust faltered or misunderstandings arose again, threatening everything they had worked so hard to achieve together. As they returned indoors to continue discussions with their teams, Elena couldn't shake off a lingering sense of unease. While cooperation seemed possible now, what would happen when faced with external threats or internal dissent? The fragile alliance was still in its infancy, a delicate seed planted amidst uncertainty, and she knew it would require constant nurturing if it were ever to flourish into something beautiful rather than shatter irreparably, leaving behind nothing but echoes haunting memories lost forevermore. With each passing moment ticking away like grains slipping through fingers grasping desperately onto fleeting hope, it became clear this fragile alliance would either flourish into something beautiful or shatter irreparably, leaving behind nothing but echoes haunting memories lost forevermore. The battle for Earth. The dawn of a new day broke over Central Park, illuminating the landscape that had been transformed by both nature and the arrival of the Cax. The air was thick with anticipation as humans and aliens prepared for the next steps in their fragile alliance. Yet, beneath this hopeful exterior, tensions simmered just below the surface. Elena Chen stood at the forefront of the human delegation, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility. A growing unease. Despite the promising discussions of collaboration and knowledge sharing, not all factions within the human community were on board with the idea of cooperation. Rumors circulated among certain groups that the Cax were merely using diplomacy as a cover for their true intentions: colonization and exploitation of Earth's resources. Elena had heard whispers of dissent among her colleagues, and she knew that if they didn't address these concerns soon, they could jeopardize everything they had worked for. Dr. Chen, Marcus Steele said, breaking her thoughts as he approached her with a serious expression. We need to talk about the growing unrest among our people. Some are calling for a more aggressive stance against the Cax. Venus sighed, rubbing her temples in frustration. I understand their fears, but we cannot let paranoia dictate our actions. We need to show them that cooperation is our best option. Marcus nodded but looked unconvinced. What if they betray us? What if this is all just a ruse? Lena took a deep breath, trying to quell her rising anxiety. Then we'll be ready to defend ourselves. But right now, we must focus on building trust. The CAC's perspective. Meanwhile, aboard the CAC's mothership, Commander Zorn faced his own challenges. While he had been impressed by humanity's resilience and ingenuity, he sensed growing unease among his ranks as well. Some CACs believed that their mission should remain focused on colonization rather than cooperation. "Commander," Vex said as she entered his quarters, her tentacles twitching with agitation, "there are factions within our fleet that question the wisdom of forming an alliance with these humans. They see them as inferior beings unworthy of trust." Zorn frowned, his four eyes narrowing in thought. "We cannot afford to view them as inferior. They have survived against overwhelming odds. This alone demands respect. But what if they turn against us?" Vex pressed. "What if they use our technology against us?" Zorn shook his head firmly. "We must take this risk if we hope to secure a future for both our species. Trust is essential." The spark of conflict. As discussions continued between humans and CACs in Central Park, trouble was brewing elsewhere. A radical faction within humanity had taken matters into their own hands. They believed that the only way to protect Earth was through force. Under cover of darkness, a group of armed humans moved stealthily toward one of the CAC's transport vessels parked nearby. Their leader, a man named Ethan Graves, was determined to send a message. "We can't trust them," Ethan shouted to his followers as they gathered around him. "They're planning to take our planet. We need to strike first." The group nodded in agreement, fueled by fear and anger rather than reason. They had prepared explosives and weapons in secret, convinced that this was their only option. Sudden attack. Just as negotiations were reaching a critical point in Central Park, alarms blared across both human and CAC's territories. The sound echoed ominously through the air as panic spread like wildfire. "What's happening?" Elena exclaimed as she rushed outside with Marcus. They witnessed chaos unfolding before their eyes. Armed humans were storming toward the CAC's transport vessel, shouting threats and brandishing weapons. "No!" Marcus shouted in disbelief. "This cannot be happening." Zorn emerged from his ship just as Ethan and his group reached the transport vessel's entrance. "Stop!" Zorn commanded, his voice booming across the park. But Ethan was too far gone in his rage to listen. "You're not taking our planet," he yelled back defiantly before throwing an explosive device toward Zorn's ship. The explosion. Time seemed to slow down as Elena watched in horror. The device detonated with a deafening roar, sending shockwaves through the air and showering debris everywhere. "Get down!" Marcus shouted as he pulled Elena behind a nearby tree for cover. The explosion sent flames licking up into the sky while smoke billowed around them like a dark cloud swallowing everything whole. Zorn staggered back from the blast, but quickly regained his footing. His eyes burned with fury as he assessed the situation around him. "Protect our people," he ordered his crew while moving toward Ethan's group with purpose. Desperate defense. As chaos erupted around them, Elena felt her heart race with fear and determination. She couldn't let this conflict escalate further. She needed to intervene before lives were lost on either side. "Stop this madness," she cried out, stepping into view despite the danger surrounding her. Ethan turned toward her, confusion flashing across his face momentarily before anger took over again. "You're siding with them," he spat incredulously. "I'm siding with humanity," Elena shouted back firmly. "But violence will not solve anything. We can't let fear dictate our actions." Zorn paused at Elena's words. He saw her bravery amidst chaos. Reminder that there were those who believed in peace even when faced with hostility. "Listen to her," Zorn called out to both sides as tensions escalated further around him. "This is not how we achieve understanding." But Ethan remained resolute. He raised his weapon once more, determined to fight for what he believed was right. Turning point. In that moment of uncertainty where choices hung heavy like storm clouds above them all, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She stepped forward closer toward Ethan despite knowing it could cost her life. "Ethan," she pleaded desperately, "I understand your fears, but this isn't just about us anymore. It's about our future." For a heartbeat longer than eternity itself, silence enveloped them all. Then slowly but surely, Ethan lowered his weapon slightly, the tension crackling like electricity in the air around them. Fragile truce forming amidst chaos, threatening destruction once more. I don't want to lose my home," Ethan admitted quietly, his voice trembling now filled with uncertainty rather than rage. An opening created where none existed moments ago. An unlikely alliance. As dawn broke over Central Park once more, the first rays of sunlight piercing through smoke-filled skies, illuminating faces filled with hope, Elena seized this opportunity. A chance for reconciliation. A chance for unity rather than division. "We can work together," she urged both sides earnestly, now filled with renewed determination, her voice steady despite everything they had faced thus far. "If we stand united against fear, we can protect our planet from those who wish harm upon it." Zorn stepped forward beside her, his presence commanding yet calm, a symbol of strength amidst uncertainty, and together they faced down those who had sought violence instead of understanding. "We are not enemies," Zorn declared firmly, his voice echoing across Central Park like thunder rumbling in distant mountains. A promise made between two civilizations standing at crossroads between war or peace. And so began an unexpected alliance forged from ashes left behind by conflict. A new chapter written within history books, waiting patiently for future generations yet unborn. To learn from mistakes made today, to embrace differences rather than allow them divide. As humanity prepared themselves once more for what lay ahead, their hearts filled with courage, their minds focused on possibilities rather than limitations, they knew one thing was certain: together they could overcome anything, even when faced against overwhelming odds threatening everything they held dear. Unity in diversity. As the sun rose over Central Park, the air was filled with a sense of cautious optimism. The previous day's confrontation had left both humans and Cax shaken, but it had also opened the door to dialogue and understanding. Elena Chen stood at the forefront of the human delegation, her heart racing with anticipation as she prepared for the next steps in their fragile alliance. The events of yesterday had revealed not only the deep-seated fears on both sides, but also a shared desire for peace, building trust. In the aftermath of the attack, both factions had agreed to a temporary ceasefire. Elena and Zorn recognized that trust must be rebuilt if they were to move forward. They decided to hold a joint meeting to address concerns and outline a plan for cooperation. As Elena entered the meeting space, she felt a mix of hope and anxiety. She knew that this was a crucial moment, one that could determine the future of both species. "Thank you all for coming," Elena began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "Yesterday was a wake-up call for us all. We cannot let fear dictate our actions any longer." Zorn nodded in agreement, his four eyes scanning the room filled with humans and Cax alike. "We are here to learn from one another," he stated firmly. "Our survival depends on cooperation, not conflict." The atmosphere shifted as both sides began to share their thoughts openly. Humans expressed their fears about losing their home, while Cax shared stories of their own struggles against extinction. It became clear that both species had faced adversity and loss, which created a bond that transcended their differences. Joint expeditions. As discussions progressed, Elena proposed an ambitious plan: joint expeditions to explore the ancient structures uncovered by the thawing ice. "These sites could hold valuable knowledge about our pasts," she explained passionately. "By working together, we can uncover technologies that benefit both our civilizations." Zorn considered her proposal carefully before responding. "This could be an opportunity for mutual growth," he agreed slowly, "but we must ensure that our exploration is respectful and sustainable." With newfound determination, both groups began drafting plans for their first expedition. A journey into the heart of what was once New York City, where ancient ruins lay buried beneath layers of ice and snow. Preparing for exploration, in the days that followed, excitement filled the air as teams prepared for their journey. Humans and CACs worked side by side, sharing knowledge and resources to equip themselves for the expedition. Lena found herself forming friendships with some of the CAC's crew members. They exchanged stories about their cultures over meals, discovering common interests in art, music, and science. One evening, as they gathered around a makeshift campfire beneath the stars, Zorn shared tales of his people's history, of how they had once thrived on a lush planet before war ravaged it beyond recognition. "We learned too late that unity is our greatest strength," he said solemnly. Elena listened intently, feeling a deep connection with Zorn as he spoke about loss and resilience. "We faced our own struggles," she replied softly, "but we've always found ways to adapt and survive." The journey begins. Finally, the day of their first expedition arrived. Teams gathered at Central Park, excitement palpable in the air as they prepared to venture into the unknown together. The CACs brought advanced technology, drones equipped with scanners and tools capable of analyzing ancient materials, while humans contributed knowledge about historical preservation techniques. As they set out toward the ruins, Elena felt a sense of purpose wash over her. This was more than just an exploration. It was a chance to forge bonds between two civilizations. The journey took them through what remained of New York City, once bustling with life, now eerily quiet, but filled with remnants of humanity's past. Skyscrapers stood like sentinels against the skyline, their glass facades reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. Discoveries await. On reaching the excavation site, a vast underground chamber filled with intricate carvings and advanced machinery, the teams marveled at what lay before them. The walls were adorned with symbols that hinted at advanced technology far beyond anything they had encountered. "Look at this," one human exclaimed as he pointed at a series of glyphs etched into stone, a language that seemed familiar yet foreign. Zorn stepped forward, examining the carvings closely. "This appears to be a form of communication," he noted thoughtfully. "Perhaps it holds information about their technology." As they worked together to decipher the symbols, excitement grew among both teams. Every discovery brought them closer together, a shared sense of purpose igniting camaraderie where fear once reigned. A common threat emerges. However, just as hope blossomed between them like spring flowers breaking through winter's grass, a shadow loomed on the horizon, threatening everything they had worked so hard to achieve together. News arrived that another faction, one even more radical than Ethan's group, had emerged among humans who opposed any cooperation with aliens. "We cannot let them sabotage our efforts," Marcus warned during an emergency meeting called upon hearing reports from scouts patrolling nearby territories. Lena felt her heart sink. This was precisely what they feared would happen, the fragile alliance teetering on the brink once more. "We must act swiftly," Zorn urged urgently, his voice filled with determination. "If we show unity against this threat, they will see that cooperation is stronger than division." Standing together, with renewed resolve fueling their spirits, the human and CAC's leaders devised a plan. They would present a united front against those who sought conflict, demonstrating not only strength but also solidarity between two civilizations fighting for survival, amidst chaos threatening everything they held dear. As preparations began for what would become known as the Day of Unity, gathering designed to showcase collaboration between humans and CACs alike, Elena felt hope surge within her once more. Belief that together they could overcome anything, even when faced against overwhelming odds threatening everything they held dear. And so began an unexpected alliance forged from ashes left behind by conflict. A new chapter written within history books, waiting patiently for future generations yet unborn, to learn from mistakes made today, to embrace differences rather than allow them divide.